You can tell by the green background color that today we're gonna talk about the best cards in Hearthstone history, like 1 per set or so. You might also know that because it's literally the title of this video. We go from the Legacy set up until the Forged and yeah, that's the new one, right? Starting with the Legacy set, we got Ice Block, by far the best secret ever made. Why? You don't die. Turns out if you don't die, you have an entire next turn to just win. And for most mage decks, that's really good. If you ever play Secret Removal, it's probably against mages that have Ice Block. This card used to be in the Hall of Fame before they got rid of that and made the Corset and so on. Turns out this card should still be in the Hall of Fame and shouldn't be used. Every mage deck ever runs this. This card is broken and it's already 7 years old. And it's still broken. This is the main reason why Zephyrus gives you Flare and Wild. So yeah, easy pick for the Legacy set. Then in next round I selected Loathab, as well as Mad Scientist. It's kind of hard to tell which one exactly because Loathab is a staple card in almost every deck. You can play it in any art deck, you play it in every art deck, I think besides Demon Hunter. It's perfect against anybody who ever wants to play a bot clear or any spell ever. Mad Scientist at the same time, Mage, Hunter, staple in those two classes since it came out. The difference between Mad Scientist and Loathab is you can play 2 Mad Scientists and it has an impact in the beginning of the game. Loathab just makes it so your opponent doesn't destroy what you build on the board. I would still say Loathab is probably better than Mad Scientist just because it can see play in all 9 classes compared to like 2, despite there being secrets for like Paladin and Rogue and so on, but no, nobody plays that in Wild. So yeah, I think I go with Loathab over Mad Scientist, but he's probably number 2 in here. Then in GVG, I selected 2 cards yet again. Divine Shield Bot and Mag Warper. The reason is, Mag Warper is really good in any Mag deck. Who would have guessed, which is Mag Hand Buff Paladin, Mag Hunter, that's actually it. Nobody else plays Max. And when you played Snip Snap OTK, you needed the Mag Warper in order to get the OTK. At the moment, nobody plays Mag Hunter and nobody plays Mag Hand Buff Paladin, so Mag Warper doesn't really exist. Divine Shield Bot though, that's a different story. This card has seen play in Paladin forever. Having a 2-drop that kills any other 2-drop and survives, that's really good. I also thought about maybe Quartermaster, maybe Master for Battle. Those are also really decent cards in GVG. But I think just using this one bot, that should be the best card in this set, based on like how often it saw play and how good it is in the early game. You could also pick something like Mal'Ganis, but no. I think more people die due to mini-bot before a Mal'Ganis is played in Warlock. At least that's what I think. Might be wrong, but that's how I feel about this. Blackrock Mountain, and do I have now one single answer? Again, no. The answer is no, we have 2. It should be Emperor Torreson, kind of like Loathab in Naxxramas, because he's playing any combo deck. You want to make a combo happen? You play Emperor Torreson. Thing is though, Flamebreaker is also really good. Turns out at the moment when you play Mage and you have Flamebreaker, you win on turn 3 or 4. Just having Flamebreaker into, any cards in Mage, you win the game. You deal 40 plus damage. Because that actually wins you the game and is really broken, it kinda has to be at least an honorable mention here. But I think Emperor is still number 1. Despite him not really seeing play that much in Wild at the moment, considering that you die on turn 4 or 5 against most decks, so why play Emperor? In the Grand Tournament, I selected Aviana because it's, Aviana Kun. Whether it's Malygos, it's Torquaggle, it's... What else do you play? You play Malygos. You use Aviana and Kun, and for that, you need Aviana. Got nerfed from 9 mana to 10, fantastic card for Druid. I also picked Spawn of Shadows though. In order to win the game, you use Spawn of Shadows and Raza Priest. Play the card, deal 6 damage every single time you use your hero power. So at least it should be an honorable mention as well. But I think over time Aviana saw more play than Spawn of Shadows. For League of Explorers, despite having Bran and Finlay, I chose Reno. I mean, he makes Reno decks. You can play a Highlander deck, you play him, you heal, win against aggressive decks, guy with a hat, fantastic man. In Whispers of the Odd Gods, I did not select York, but I selected N'Zoth. Turns out if you have any Death Rattle minions that died this game, whether it's card or defender, Void Lord, you play N'Zoth, board is full of stuff, you win the game. Unless your opponent plays something that deals damage directly to your face, this card almost always won you the game when you played it, or at least made it even again so you can trade with your opponent. In One Night in Corset, we have a bunch of portals. We have Medivh, and we have the best card in here, which is Medivh's Valet. For just 2 mana, you deal 3 damage. Any Secret Mage deck runs that. Reno's Secret Mage runs that. And I think the number 1 deck, like the rank 1 legend deck of like 2017 or so, also played this card. Just the fact that for having a secret on the board in play, which is really easy in Mage, you deal 3 damage to destroy any 2-drop your opponent has, just makes this card a lot better than most other 2-drops in the game. Even Shielded Minibot dies to this minion, and then you still have a 2-1 remaining, and that's awesome. For the last expansion in 2016, we have Gadget Zen. And in here, it's Patches, obviously. In case you never understood why Patches is such a broken card, think about it this way. The very first card you play, if it's a pirate, has a +1/+1 buff on it. For free, and you have one less bad card in your deck that you draw. The part where you thin your deck is completely worthless, that doesn't matter at all. It's all about the fact that you have an additional 1/1. Hope that makes sense, it just gives you the advantage, it gives you tempo, it makes you win in the beginning of the game. In Angora, what a wonderful expansion, I selected 3 cards. Number 1, Archaeologist. Why? It's part of the Corset now, people just put it in there. Staple card in every mage deck, you draw a secret. Number 2, Caverns Below. Not the biggest fan of that. Back in the day it was really broken, and now we can really just play the Flybooter, Shadow Step that, and then you finish your quest with that. And for number 3, it's Shadow Visions. We now have like Shadow Visions 2.0, also in the Corset for free, but this one discovers you a spell you would like to draw. So for that, good cards. Just staple cards across multiple decks. In Knights of the Frozen Throne, it was really hard to pick a single card, so again, I selected 3. For Death Knights, I think the best one is Death Knight Godan, because similar to N'Zoth, the moment you play this card, you probably win the game, or at least the entire board is full of stuff to win the game next turn. Number 2 is Spreading Plague. Got nerfed from 5 mana to 6 mana, but still, you fill the entire board with taunt minions. That's broken to this day. You get like 525 in stats for 6 mana in taunt. That's really good. And then Ultimate Infestation. I think for the most broken card in here, it's probably go down by the power level itself, but obviously the 10 mana card is better than the 6 mana card. There's a reason why it's 10 mana. You could also say that Death Knight Anduin is really good, so yeah. Any other Death Knights, but I would personally go with Anduin or Godan. Kobolds and Catacombs, and you will see I'm really indecisive. There are 3 cards in here. Kobold Librarian being number 1 because it sees play in every single Warlock deck, whether it's Zoo, Cube Warlock, OTK, doesn't matter. It sees play in every single Warlock deck. So just based on how often this card is played, it's probably the best card in all of Hearthstone. But for card number 2 in here, Psychic Scream. The best bot clear ever made for Priest. It does not trigger Death Riddles, it does not trigger any effect at all, it just removes everything. Your opponent gets a bunch of garbage in the deck, they need to play all those cards again, and it's guaranteed to remove everything. And for number 3, Kingsbane. You want to play hyper aggressive and rogue? You play Kingsbane, give it like 8 attack by like turn 5. Hit face over and over, win the game. All 3 of those cards are fantastic in the classes they belong to, but I think the best card is still Kobold Librarian, just based on how often it sees play and how diversified it can be. Then in Witchwood, we got Shudderwock. Probably Baku and Gen, because those cards actually matter and how the game plays out, so probably those 2. But for a single card itself with an effect, it's Shudderwock. Card can be infinite, can have any effect ever. Every card you play during the game gets combined into this powerful effect. I know it doesn't see play anymore, because why would you if you can just win by turn 5? But based on prior metas, Shudderwock is probably number 1 in here. For Boomstay I selected Zilliax, just because we all like to play Zilliax, belonged into every single deck. He was aggressive when you needed him. He was supportive when you needed him. He was always on your side. But then after Boomstay, something happened in late 2018. The worst expansion of all time got released. Not TGT, but Rastakhan's Rumble. Damn, this expansion sucked hard. And the best card in here, after looking at all of them, it's Mass Hysteria for Priest. It's a bot clear, like Psychic Scream a couple minutes ago. Yeah, the cards in here were just bad. Then in Rise of Shadows, despite having lackeys, I think the best card in here is Vargheth. If you play it in Druid, you use Oak and Summons into Vargheth. If you play it in Big Priest, you resurrect the entire board twice. And I think besides like a meme deck like Deck of Wonders and Mage, where you shuffle a bunch of random spells into your deck, this only sees play in Druid and Priest. But for that, this card is really good. Talking about broken cards that shouldn't be here. Zephyrus, yay, give it up for the man that wishes for the best card. You play Arena deck and you have 10 mana, play Zephyrus, well you get Twisting Nether. You have 7 mana and your opponent has a board, no, you get Brawl. I feel like Zephyrus is also kind of stupid to be in the game. Like, why play a class if you just play any class card ever? Anyways, he's the best card. He has the answer for everything, most of the time. In Descent of Dragons, I first thought maybe it's Dragon Queen Alex, maybe it's one of the dragons in here, but no, it's just Embiggen. Let me explain. It's a 0-cost spell, so you can always play this card on turn 1, and in Token Druid and Wild, you can not just trigger the Gibberling, but also you can summon Patches, which might be a 3/3 or 5/5. Every card you top deck after turn 1 is going to be buffed, and that's awesome. In Galakrond's Awakening, which is like an adventure mini set, it's its own thing. I selected Reno, the big man. When you play him, everything disappears. And then there's random. So it's funny, but also good. It's like the perfect combination of everything. Next we get the Initiate set for Demon Hunter. This doesn't really count, I feel like, but I still selected like Twin Slice because it deals damage and it's Demon Hunter, and yeah, it's Twin Slice. The next set is the Corset. Best 2 cards, I think, are Preparation and Backstab. Those cards cost 0 mana, so you can play them at any point. And I think every single rogue deck ever used Backstab. Like, it's so playing every single rogue deck. And because it's kind of class defining, I think it's the best card in the Corset. I know you could say just select the highest cost legendary that probably has a better effect, which yes, that's true. But for how often a card sees play and how good that is actually when you play the game in the early stages, in the first couple turns, it should be Backstab. Moving on to Ashes of Outland, it's not a Demon Hunter card, it's a Warlock card, Dark Glare. For the past like 6 months or so, Dark Glare Warlock is tier 1 in Wild. Every time you take damage, you refresh a mana crystal. Used to be a 3 mana 3/4 that refreshes 2 mana crystals every time you take damage, but now it's a 2 mana 2/3 that refreshes 1 single mana crystal. Still, really broken. Playing this on turn 2 into Coin Cobalt Librarian, into something else that hits your face, just means you can fill the entire board, summon Molten Giant and Flash Giant on turn 3, and that's really broken. In Scholomance Academy, 3 cards. Number 1, Flash Giant for the aforementioned deck. Number 2, Lord Barroth. This into Whirlwind, entire board blows up. This into discard attacks, entire board blows up. Number 3, Pokalt. When you play Raza Priest and you want to win, you play Pokalt, reorder your deck, get the good cards, and then you win. Madness at the Darkmoon Fair, I picked 4. Really? I picked 4. I'm so sorry. First I picked Palm Reading. Turns out when you play Big Priest or Raza Priest, you have a lot of spells. In Big Priest I think like 26 spells, 25 or 26. You reduce at least like 7 cards in your hand with this. And you get a card. This is like 4 mana for free just for playing it. And you can play 2 of those. Number 2, Ticketus. The card is actually not that good and any high legend player doesn't play it, but it feels terrible to play against. Like, why would I play Hearthstone if my opponent just deletes my cards? Like, where's the point in playing? Number 3 is Ergonoth. You want to play Demon Hunter and have an OTK that is uninteractable, and it's really boring to play against because your opponent just draws cards and wins. You have Ergonoth. And then Sage. Play Secret Mage, you play Sage. Card draws you 5 cards and is a 5/5. That's pretty good. So I think for the single best card in here, I think it's Palm Reading, just because of how big of an impact this card is on turn 3. But all those cards in here feel bad to play against. And finally for Fortune in the Barrens, I have a clear winner, but we go through all 3 first. First, Tamsin. Tamsin means when you play something like Power Overwhelming, you use Solarium. Those cards cost 0 mana after you use them for the first time. So if you use double PO, that's just 2 mana, and you get +16/+16 because you get the cards back to your hand. That's broken. Number 2, we get Fleurgal Firemancer Fleurgal. When you play Murloc Shaman and you use a poisonous effect with Toxfin, you blow up the entire board. This is also a funny Demon Hunter card, but now for Murloc Shaman. But now to the clear winner, the most broken card in this set. It's Conviction, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get nerfed to like give minions +2 attack instead of +3. On turn 5, this is +6 attack. This is Leroy Jenkins for 1 mana if you have existing minions on the board, which you do have most of the time. So for 2 mana, 2 of those, you would have +12 damage. That's just insane. Conviction is clearly the best card in this set, I think. Might be wrong. And with that being said, those would be my picks for the best cards in here. Am I wrong? Most likely. Let me know in the comments down below. My name is Person. Here is a video you can click on, maybe subscribe, and until then, take care.